The Shenandoah Valley, a region in western Virginia sandwiched between two major mountain ranges. This valley is my home, and it was the home of my ancestors since before the American Revolution. The Shenandoah Valley was first settled in the 18th century, primarily as a productive farming community by Scotch, Irish, and German settlers. Today, agriculture is still a big part of the culture of this fertile region. So is religion. There are religious institutions of various affiliations throughout this region and hundreds of buildings dedicated to be places of worship and community. The majority of their buildings contain stained glass windows, a signature piece of ecclesiastical architecture since medieval times. Join me as I discover just how beautifully diverse and abundant these windows are, in addition to their symbology and historical importance. The first stained glass windows were developed in Europe in the first millennium AD. Even though the Shenandoah Valley was settled centuries later, early churches like this Augustus stone church did not have stained glass windows at all. This church was built in 1747 and needed to be prepared to serve as a fort of protection for the European immigrants from the native populations. Not exactly the kind of safe environment for expensive stained glass windows. As populations grew in the Shenandoah Valley, churches grew as well. But things became more settled in the coming century, and along with cultural changes, the technological advances of the Industrial Revolution made it possible to not only once again rediscover how to create the stained glass windows of medieval times, but to also experiment with new innovations in the art form. As new churches were built, stained glass windows were frequently installed. The sanctuary building of the First Presbyterian Church in Stanton was built in 1872. It contained some of the oldest large windows in the region. These windows are primarily decorative in style. It was typical of the time period, particularly amongst the region's Protestant churches, for stained glass to consist primarily of geometric or floral designs, with very little painting and no reference to biblical characters, and frequently no pictorial images of any kind. The reason for this is that in Protestant America of the time, some churches considered more pictorial stained glass windows inappropriate as they were too close to tempting idolatry. Looking 30 years later at the Second Presbyterian Church in Stanton, we see an evolution in theological thinking. The windows to the side of the sanctuary, original to the 1902 building, began to include some pictorial images, but no biblical figures or images representing God. 4 decades later, there was a fire in the sanctuary that destroyed one of the larger windows. It was replaced in 1948 with a new window. It depicted an image of Jesus Christ, along with the hand of God and the dove of the Holy Spirit, as well as other pictorial images. This was quite radical and sparked some controversy at the time. It's hard to believe something so beautiful could be so controversial. Stained glass windows were seen as a symbol of the Roman Catholic Church, and so under the guise of labeling the windows as a form of idolatry, there was a major movement of iconoclasm, that is the destruction of religious imagery as idolatrous, including the stained glass The stained glass windows installed in these churches are intended to be expressions of faith and reminders of the stories in the Bible and the beauty of heaven. They're not intended to be direct objects of worship. As Joseph Campbell said, the symbols don't render the experience, they suggest it.